Hello! It's time for me to put my money where my mouth is and do my own activity. If you want to follow along and watch me potentially screw things up a bit and explain what I think about stuff in a little more depth as I go, feel free. If you want to just follow the activity solo, you can also absolutely do that. So yeah, without further ado, I'm not going to try and make this take 3 hours if I can at all avoid that. We're going to be doing the p5.speech activity called Slamina. Slamina is the word animals backwards. Let's begin. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to be at the activity page on the website. And the objective here is for me to learn about voice output and voice input in p5.speech. You know, if you've been following along, you've seen a lot of the stuff here. The point of this activity is to put together something a little bit more sophisticated. So the idea is we're going to have a quizzing program that's taking advantage of speech output and speech input. The program is going to say the name of an animal backwards, which will of course make it hard to understand. But of course takes advantage of the way that a computer can say things backwards pretty confidently. And then we are going to have to reply with our voice telling it what animal we think it said the right way around. So if it says God, then we will say, I think it is dog, because dog is God backwards. I hope I just blew your mind there. And then we want a little bit of user interface stuff. So if the guess is correct, then it should be displayed in green. And if the guess is incorrect, it should be displayed in red. So it's a pretty simple program, you know, in one sense, like it's easy to explain. But of course, programming is a whole thing. So let's get into actually doing what it takes to make this project happen. First of all, I'm going to download the template project, as is the way. I'm going to unzip it like that. And then I'm going to move it over to here. And what am I supposed to do? Rename the folder to Slamina. I shall do so. Slamina. Oh, can't even type that in right now, apparently. Slamina. Slamina. Okay, that wasn't really necessary. Step 3, move the folder into the activities folder in your repository folder. It uses the word folder 3 times in one sentence. That's really for you to do. I'm just going to do it on my desktop. Here, I don't have a course repository, and I am through with pretending that I do, because I simply do not. And similarly, I'm not going to be using Git for this. I'm just going to go through the active steps of making this work. To which end, I'm going to open the project in VS Code. I have VS Code open, so I'm going to do it by dragging it onto VS Code on my toolbar thing. There we go, I've got Slamina. I'm ready to go. What's the plan? Well, we've talked about it a bit, but this is just an attempt to, I guess, identify what the parts are here. One thing is that we need a list of animal names that we can choose from, because the computer itself needs to know the names of some animals. And what that's really going to mean is an array of animals. I've already got a solution to where we're going to find them. You could also hand code your own list of animals or other words if you wanted to. We also have to figure out how to get p5.speech saying one of those animals backwards. That will require some code for reversing a string, which we'll look at. And then we need the bit where it listens to me speaking, or the user speaking, and giving their guess in the form that we've talked about. I think it is dog. And we need to be able to respond to figuring out whether or not that was right. And finally, we want to display we want to display whether it's right or wrong. So there's 4 kind of major steps, which are somewhat modular. So let's begin with number 1. Number 1 is fortunately pretty easy. What we need is an array of animal names, and this guy, Darius Kazemi, who I love as a friend, he's got this amazing overall set of data called the Corpora project. Within it, there is an animal list, which is right here. So I'm going to open that up. Doop. Look at that. It's a list of animal names. Aardvark, alligator, alpaca, antelope, ape, armadillo, baboon, badger, bat, bear, beaver, bison, boar, buffalo, etc. Perfect. That's what we want, right? It's even in a JavaScript-y form, square brackets. So copy the array containing the list of animals, including the square brackets, because we want the array. So the array is from this square bracket all the way down, it's a lot of animals, to there, other square bracket. And I'm going to copy that by hitting Command-C on my Mac. And then declare a constant called animals in my script at the top, I guess, and assign the array by pasting in the actual text there. So in my script, I should do some of this work quickly as well. Slamina, pip-in bar, a guessing game with p5.speech. I'm just going to leave it at that. If I were doing this as a serious project, I would write more there. I'm not going to have a preloader. And they told me I'm going to have a const called animals, and I'm going to assign the array. I'm going to paste it in right now. Semicolon of power. That's a big, long thing. This is taking up quite a bit of my program now, because it's vertical in that way. So if I want to in VS Code, I can hit this little arrow next to it, and it compresses it down, so I don't have to look at it. Because I kind of don't care what's in there now that I know that it's animals. I don't really need to refer to it so much, so it's nicer if I just can't see it. Okay, we've done that. There's another thing I'm remembering to do, which is change this title in activity in index.html. I'm going to change it to the word Slamina. That just makes me feel better. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming. We've done step 1 already. We've got the list of animal names. Now we can use those. Now for something a little bit more fun. Choosing an animal and saying it backwards. So yeah, the key thing here is that the computer needs to say animal names backwards. That's kind of the puzzle. Because it can be hard on hearing something backwards to figure out what it is forwards. And so that's the challenge that we're offering, right? So we need to get one of the animal names, which are strings in that array, flip it around so that it's pointing backwards, just so it's backwards. And then we will ask the speech synthesis to say it, and we'll see what that sounds like. Although more on that later. So the actual string reversing thing is not as easy as I would love. So we're actually I'm just gonna provide that to you in just a second. So first of all, though, we need to have a variable that's gonna track what we're trying to guess at the moment. So a variable we're gonna call current animal that starts out as empty. I'm going to put it right after the animals array. Current animal is nothing. This is where we're going to store the animal that we're trying to guess. That way we can check in various places whether it's the right thing, and we can display it on the canvas and all of that sort of stuff. Now, string reversing is non-trivial. Here is a function that does it. So I'm just going to put this into the program, and then we can take a little quick look at it. I'm going to put it at the bottom. Paste. So how does reverse string work? Well, it's a function, so we can call it. It takes one parameter, which is the string that we want to make backwards. So if it gets the string GOD, it should send back DOG. If it gets CAT, it should send back TAC, and so forth. And there's basically just a couple of steps to do this. The first thing is that it splits the string based on nothing, which is kind of weird. This is a weird use of split. But if you tell split to work based on an empty string, what it is going to do is it's going to divide the string that you give it into its individual characters. And it's going to give them back to you as an array. So if we do string.split like this, and it's got God coming in, it's going to give you an array with a G, an O, and a D as its 3 elements. That's going to end up in there. So GOD is going to be inside characters. The next thing that we're going to do is reverse that array. So arrays have a special power that you can just tell them, hey, now I want you to go the other way. So where it was G and then O and then D, it's going to become D and then O and then G. I'm realizing I've got this backwards, and I apologize. Probably too late now. So those reversed characters go into here. Obviously, it would actually have been dog and then God. So this will have the G, the O, and the D as an array here. But arrays aren't very useful for printing text and checking text, so we need to turn it back into a string. So the opposite of split is join. So we're going to tell that array of reversed characters containing GOD as elements, join yourselves back together, again with this kind of non-character, this empty string, and that will stick them back together into a string, and that string will go into result, and that will say God. So dog comes in, God goes out, and we return the result so that the function can give it back to whichever part of the program was asking for it. So, in one sense, simple, right? You split it up into its characters, you reverse it, you join it back together, and you send it back. But of course, programming being programming, it wouldn't necessarily be obvious how to do that just on your own. Cool trick to know, though. As it says here, you can actually do all of this in a single line, and if you love that kind of thing, go ahead. This is called method chaining. So you can actually do string.split on the empty string, immediately do the dot reverse, and then immediately do the dot join afterwards and return the result. That will actually do the same thing. I'm not sure that it's quite as easy to read. Okay, so we've got the power to reverse an animal's name. Now it's telling me that I need to, use P5 speech. So I need to make sure that I have P5 speech. So I need the script tag for P5 speech in my index.html. So that's a good point, index.html. My library scripts I'm putting in here, but I need that script tag. I can't remember it, so I'm going to go to their website, p5.speech. There it is. Again, I could download it and use the file, or I can just use the CDN. I almost always end up using the CDN because I suppose I'm lazy or something. I copy it, I paste it in here. Now my project is ready to use p5.speech. But of course I have to do all of the actual work to make that happen. I can close this now. Okay, create a speech synthesis object in your project. Declare a const called speech synthesizer at the top and assign it a new speech synthesizer object. Well, we know how to do that because that's the classic thing that we've done a few times now. So let's head up here. I'm going to do it after the data stuff. So I'm going to say const speech synthesizer is assigned new p5.speech. Just comme ça. That is done. And then define a mouse pressed. Oh yeah, okay. That makes sense. We're going to speak on mouse pressed just because that's kind of easy. So let's declare a mouse pressed function first. Bloop. Where am I going to put that? I'm going to put it here in between draw and reverse string. Function mouse pressed. There's no super obvious reason. We can talk about reasons for the order of functions. My thinking here is that reverse string is kind of like a helper function, so I want it more towards the bottom. Whereas mouse pressed is more dynamic and important, but I still want it after draw, which is sort of the main part of my program, right? That's sort of a gut justification. First of all, assign a random animal name from the animals array to current animal. Okay. And remember, you can use P5's random function for this. Yes, I remember that. So random in P5 can take an array and spit out a random member of that array, a random element from that array. So we can take advantage of that right now. Current animal is assigned random, because we're going to use a random thing from that array, from the animals array. So give me a random element from the animals array and put it into current animal. That's the one thing that we're going to be trying to guess in this round of the game. Declare a variable called reverse animal and assign the reverse of current animal by using reverse string. Current animal. Okay, so we're going to finally use that function that we had to reverse current animal and store it in a new variable. So let reverse animal. I was going to say maybe reversed animal, but apparently not. Reverse animal is assigned reverse string, which is our function that we've got just below, and we have to tell it what to reverse, and what I want it to reverse is the current animal. Okay. So we've gotten the current animal as a random animal, and now we've got the reversed version. So again, if current animal was cat, then reverse animal is going to be tack. Use the speech synthesizer to speak reverse animal. So speech synthesizer has a speak method. At our most basic, we can say speech synthesizer.speak reverse animal. So that's what's going to cause it to say it out loud to me. And now we're in a bit of a position to actually try using this program, because now if I start the program and click, it should say the name of a random animal backwards. And this is where I tell you, and I should say as well, by the way, if you're like, oh, how would I have known that I should use speak in that situation? If you don't remember these things, it's probably a good idea to have this website open and the API. just because there's lots of reminders here of what you can do. For instance, like here's the things that tell you the most basic P5 speech stuff that you can do, including the idea that there's a speak method. And you can also read the documentation below. You can look at the examples, etc., in case there are things that aren't gelling with you. But now I'm ready to run the program. And this is the moment as well where I tell you, well, I'm wearing headphones right now, so you're not going to hear what I hear, assuming that I hear anything. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So when I click, I'm going to have to just try and reproduce what I'm hearing, just so that you're coming along for the ride. So let's check this out. Tar is what I heard. Tar, which to me sounds like T-A-R, which makes me think rat, right? So tar is the backwards pronunciation of rat. And if I click again, eleoc, eleoc, eleoc. I have absolutely no idea what that is. So there you go. This guessing game is not easy. Good. I didn't want it to be easy. I wanted it to be interesting and challenging. So it's working. I click and I hear the name of a random animal backwards. I'm not making that up. I was really, really hearing that. So now we have the other part, which is the voice recognition. But I need to be able to say what I think it is, and I need the computer to listen to me and recognize that. So to do this, there are different ways that we could do this, but I think one of my experiences, especially with P5 speech, is that it doesn't handle hearing a single word as consistently as I would like. So if I just said cat, my experience was that sometimes it just simply didn't hear me, and I think it's therefore good to have a little bit more language going in so that it's got something more to work with, maybe. I don't know. That's getting superstitious, but that was my experience. So we're going to have a guessing command that goes, I think it is, and then the answer. I think it is cat. I think it is antelope, etc. Now that's not perfectly easy. It's certainly not as perfectly easy as we would like, but let's get it done. There's plenty of help going on here. So first of all, we've got to get a recognizer working in order to actually make this whole thing function. I'm noticing that the numbering here really sucks. I'll probably try and correct that if I possibly can. Anyway, that's life. Oh no, maybe not. Yeah, no, maybe yeah. Yeah, no, it's fully broken. I'm not going to worry about it. Don't worry, you didn't hear any of this. I'll edit this out, but I actually won't. So let's create a speech recognizer and assign it a speech recognizer object. Again, like I've been doing a lot of this just recently, so I know how to do this. It would be const speech recognizer is assign you p5.speechRec. Again, if you don't remember how to do these things, just go and look at the website. It's a lot of these example things are right there for you. You can look at the notes, etc. It's totally fine if you need to look this up. You are not necessarily meant to be memorizing every single possible thing that you can do. So we've got one of those, and now we're going to set it up. So we're going to tell it to work continuously, because I want it to keep listening. I don't want to just have one guess, by setting its continuous property to true. Okay, so in setup, it's starting to feel like I would like to have a canvas, but for now, let's not worry about it. So speech recognizer dot continuous, that's how I talk to that thing, and its continuous property is true. So that's going to tell it to keep listening after it hears something. Set the function it will call on results to handle speech input. We'll write that function in a moment, so we're going to sort of imagine that we have a function. So speech recognizer dot on result is what the callback property is called. Handle speech, speech input. We don't do these here because we're not actually calling it, we're telling it the name of the function that it's going to call. That's how callbacks work. So now it knows what it should do when it hears something, and then finally we want it to start, which means that it will, use the start method. That's the thing that will ask for permission to use the microphone if it still needs permission. So speech recognizer.start. Now the system is going to be running. Obviously the system is not going to be working very well because there is no handle speech input function. I guess that's probably what we're going to do right now. So now we need to handle guessing. Okay, yeah, that's fair as well. So we also need to store the guess somewhere so that we can be checking it in various places. So our current answer, we're going to have a variable called current answer, starts out empty. That's where we're going to store the guess. So I'll put that right after current animal. Current answer, that's how you pronounce that, also empty, because we don't have an answer when the program starts. And now below the mouse pressed function, that's a little bossy, but I think that's probably fair. We're going to define our function called handle speech input. That's going to do some pretty, sophisticated is probably the wrong word, but like non-easy stuff. It's going to figure out what the user said. It's going to specifically pull the name of the animal that they said, because remember, they're going to say, I think it is dog or whatever. So we want to pull out dog from that sentence so that we have their actual answer. And that's going to be, that's going to be a little bit of a moment, because that's how we're going to figure out what their answer is. This should not say current animal. This should say current answer. I will fix that as well. So define the function called handle speech input is our first step. And as advised, I'm going to do it down here. Function handle speech input, no parameters. Let's go. So declare a variable called guessed animal and give it a default value that will make sense if the user sees it after the program didn't understand them. Okay, so this is us needing to handle this case where we might say something that's wrong. We might also just say something that the speech recognizer just straight up, it didn't work. Like it didn't even think that we said something, or we said something that doesn't constitute a guess in the context of this program. Like if I just say broccoli or something, it still needs to respond in some way. So we're gonna say, what? So let guessed animal is assigned what? I use 3 question marks because I'm pretty serious about this. Obviously, guessed animal will hopefully contain the name of an animal, but if it doesn't, we want to be able to have something that makes sense within our program is the idea here. Write an if statement that checks that speech recognizer.result value is true. Now, this is something that I didn't really do so much in the experimenting with speech recognizer, but it's something that's useful here because we're relying so much on hearing a very specific thing from the user, and we want to kind of respond based on whether or not they said something useful or not. So speech recognizer.result value will tell us whether the speech recognizer, having called the handle speech function, actually thinks that it heard anything useful. So we're going to first of all want to make sure that it thinks it heard something useful, that it really heard speech. So if speech recognizer dot result value is true, oh good God. 1 equal sign is incredibly bad. I'm not going to do the equals, I'll just say result value. So that means it got a result. Then we can more confidently be like, okay, well, we're going to be dealing with some speech inside the result string. So inside that if statement, where once we sort of kind of know what we're talking about, we're going to use split, which we're going to use in order, well, we used it already in the reverse string, right? We're going to use it to break apart what they said into the part before they say, I think it is, which is, the kind of trigger word, the phrase that we're using to signify an answer. So the part before I think it is probably going to be nothing, but that's okay. And then the part after I think it is. So we're splitting it based on this thing. We're going to divide it into the befores and the after, the before and the after of that. And the after bit, after I think it is, should be the animal's name. So that's the trick that we're going to apply here. It is not perfect, but it should help us out. As with the split before, it's going to return an array. So ideally, in a working situation, it's going to return an array with 2 things in it. What they said before I think it is, which might be just nothing, and what they said after I think it is, which should be the animal's name. So we're going to be wanting to deal with that second element in the array. We've got the code here because that is by no means easy to internalize. Good for you if you can. I'm just going to paste it in. So here we go. The first thing that we're doing is lowercasing the result, just because, and I've talked about this before in other videos, when you're dealing with strings, and especially if you're wanting to compare one string to another string, or for example, split it on a specific phrase, it's better if it's all lowercase. Or all uppercase, just because you can then guarantee certain things about the string are going to be consistent. So we're going to make it lowercase first. We do that by saying speech recognizer.result string dot to lowercase to lowercase is a special string method that just does that work for you and returns it so that you can assign it into a new variable here. And then we're going to do the splitting thing, lowercase result.split on I think it is. So in theory, parts, in the case if I say I think it is dog, is going to have a first element which is just empty because I didn't say anything before I think it is. And then in the second part, second element is going to be dog because that's what I said after I think it is. That's the dream. That's the dream that we're pursuing. So to check whether they did actually say a two-part thing in the right format, first of all, we're going to have to make sure that parts is longer than one, right? It did break it into two pieces. So if parts, and now how do we check if an array has a specific number of elements? We use length, right? So if the length of parts is greater than 1, that means we can be fairly confident that they said, I think it is animal name, if they're helping us at all. And like some of this error handling stuff is just like, whoa, you can go down this path for a long way. So you also have to decide how much you care about these kinds of things. But if we're in here, that would mean that the second element of parts is what we're assuming they guessed the animal to be. So that would mean that we could say guessed animal is assigned parts. How do I get the second element of the array? I ask for the thing at index 1, so parts 1. So that's what their guess is going to be. Sorry, and I jumped ahead a little bit there, but that's just what we did, right? That's their answer. And then at the end here, we're going to want to put guessed animal into the current answer, and then we are going to console.log it, just because we want to know what on earth it thinks current answer is. So let's try that out. So at the end of the function, we're going to say current answer is assigned guessed animal. And we're going to do a console.log of current answer, just so we have some output, because right now the program doesn't even have a canvas, right? So when it hears something, it's going to default to responding with what? Then it's going to check, well, did it hear anything actually recognizable as speech? If it didn't, then guessed animal is going to be what, right? So that's going to be useful. Then we're going to, if it did hear something, we're going to convert it to lowercase. We're going to split it based on our special instruction. I think it is. And if there are two parts, or maybe more, to that, I think it is, then the second part at index 1 is going to be the word that they're guessing. Again, if this is not true, if there aren't two parts, maybe there's only one part, or there's 0 parts because they didn't even say, I think it is, blah, then again, we're going to end up with our default response of, what? And then once we've taken care of all of that, the current answer is whatever is in guessed animal, whether it's what, or dog, or antelope, or what have you. And we're going to print that out. So let's check if that is working. So we're going to need our console to be open. You can see it's already saying, what? Because I'm not saying things in the right format. So I'm now going to try and say something in the right format. I think it is dog. So there you go. You can see it working, right? I said the right phrase. So the split worked, and it was able to pull out dog. Now it's hearing me say other things, and it's like, what? But let me try again. I think it is antelope. So it's clearly working, right? I can say I think it is, and an animal name, and it will get that animal name. Obviously, it doesn't actually expect animal names specifically. I could say something else. I think it is broccoli. I think it is surfboard. I think it is Barack Obama. I think it is extremely important that Donald Trump doesn't win the next US election. Yeah, I mean, it's working. Importantly, like though, right, it doesn't care if I say the right kind of thing. It only cares if I say, I think it is, and then something. Like that. Okay, well, we're making progress. So we're seeing it working. The final thing that we need to do is just like have something appear on the screen. And I'm noticing that I haven't actually told you to create a canvas anywhere, so that would be important. So in setup, we should actually create a canvas. Otherwise, our program is not going to look like anything. Create canvas. My favorite resolution, my New Year's resolution. Oh, maybe it should be very slightly different. 501 by 500. That's not awkward. And then we should set a background color. Ooh, dealer's choice here. Background. Oh, well, that's not a number. 1, 2, 3. No, 3, 2, 1 is not going to work either. 101 and 231. Okay, a background color. What color did we get? Oh, yeah, it's not terrible. Write an if statement that checks if the current answer is correct. So that would mean, is the current answer the same thing as the current animal? I.e. they're equal, i.e. they said the right thing. So if current answer equals is the same as current animal, that would mean that they said, I think it is, and then the animal that was chosen for this round of the game. What should we do in here? If it does, if they're equal, set the fill, because we're going to display some text, to green. That makes sense. So this is how we're going to show correctness, right? So RGB, so the fill is green. I could also just write the word green, but here we are. I just did that. And if it doesn't match, then we should set the fill to red to show that we think that they are wrong. So else, we're going to get the else if the if is false, so that means that they are not the same. We're going to set the fill to red. Maybe these colors seem a bit harsh. Maybe let's tune them down a little bit. And then, oh man, you can see this. This is what happens to me. I start tweaking. I'm sorry. You can do this too, though. It's relatively satisfying. And then display the current answer as text on the canvas, because we want them to see what we think they said. That's kind of an important part of the game, both because it can be funny and because it tells them the result. So let's set a text size that's more impressive than tiny, and a text align of center. These are just things I'm thinking of because I want it to look a little bit nice. And then let's display the text current answer at the center, width over 2, height over 2. And the color that this is going to be based on whether they're right or wrong. So it'll be green if it was right and red if it was wrong. So now if we run it, I should be able to click, hear a backwards word, say what I think it is, and then see my answer appear in green if I'm right and red if I'm wrong. Could it possibly work? I think it is iguana. Well, it didn't even hear me that time. I'm realizing I can't even repeat to you the word. Oh, no, I can, I guess. So I'll repeat to you what I hear, and then I'll try and guess. Torap. I think it is parrot. I feel like I was right there, so I'm not sure what happened to us in that particular case. I think what I'll do, actually, as I'm just exploring this, is I'm going to print out the current answer, and I'm also aware that this background was an absolute disaster with those particular colors that I chose, so I'm going to make it just a light color. I'm also going to display the correct answer above, which is current animal. That way I can compare them and I can see if there's anything that's slightly odd going on. I think it is mandrill. So I'm always getting a red. Oh, well, that was interesting, right? Then this was a good debugging thing. I said mandrill and it did M-A-N-D-R-E-L, and the actual animal name is M-A-N-D-R-I-L-L, so that's a bit unlucky. You'd have to think about what to do in cases where there's homonyms, right? Words that sound the same but are spelled differently, since we're operating on spelling here. This looks disgusting, by the way, but I'm going to resist the urge to fix it. So I'm going to listen to another one. Rotagilla is how that was pronounced. I mean, I can see the answer, which is a bit silly, but let's try it. I think it is alligator. So clearly something's gone wrong in my code because it's red, and it shouldn't be red, it should be green. So what's going on here? If current answer equals current animal, fill should be green. Well, there's a really important thing that's missing here, and that's actually using... Oh, no, wait, that's not true. I am using the fill, so what's going on here? Oh, you know what could be happening is... No, that doesn't make sense. I'm confused. Why is it not working? Let me do a console.log in here. Current. That's great. Now I'm just humiliating myself. Now this is what the point of these activities is. Incorrect. Let's track this distinctly from whether the fill itself is working. I think it is camel. So that's interesting. It's saying correct at the top there. Oh, that's just a default, I see, yeah, because they're both equal strings. So there's something going on here where, oh, you know what? I wonder if it's got the space. Yeah, I think this is what it is. This is really tricky. I'm going to pop this into the instructions for this activity so that you don't have to do this. But I think what's happening is when it splits on I think it is, we're ending up, because what it's splitting is the phrase, say, I think it is dog, but it's I think it is space dog. Well, not space dog, you know what I mean. A space and then the word dog. But the split is grabbing everything only up to the end of that S. So what it's giving me is the answer is, is space dog, like a space character and then the word dog, which is not the same as just the word dog. So I reckon, and this is just insane, isn't it? This is programming for you. This is very illustrative. I need to split it on I think it is space in order to only get the guessed word. I think it is cheetah. There you go, right? Isn't that interesting? That is, I mean, like, I'm lucky. I've been doing this for a long time, so it was not hard to debug, but these are the things that you can lose weeks of your life over. Let me do a couple more. Clay. I think it is elk. Wonderful. Tarksum. I think it is muskrat. Wonderful. One more for the people back home. Gotra. I think it is warthog. Wonderful. I should do one for you where I can't see the answer because it is incredibly, incredibly cheaty. So let's go back over to here and let's not display the actual answer, and I'll try and get one of these. Doubt. I think it is toad. There you go. I'm good at this game. Let's see how good at this game you are, because we are done. If you want to and you're feeling energetic, you can make some improvements to the structure of the program, break it down into some subfunctions, things like that. Obviously, you can make the UI nicer. You could think about turning it into a whole thing with a start screen and an end screen and some sound effects and a counter where you can see how many you can get, and a timer so that you get stressed out, and maybe a timer to enter your answer in. You could use a totally different set of answers to have like Pokemon or something. And you could transform these things in different ways. You could make them anagrams or say them in a voice that's not the voice that you would expect, i.e. maybe not with an English-speaking voice to make it even more challenging, and on and on and on. The key is to be a bit playful, right? And to just mess around with the possibilities that are specifically offered by this speech library and the kinds of fun that you can have with it. So I hope that was fairly illustrative for you. Just in terms of going through a full process of trying to accomplish something that really specifically takes advantage of the kinds of things that this library can do. And you got to see me mess things up and fail and recover, sort of. So thanks for coming along on the journey with me. If you did, if you didn't, you can't even hear me, so I don't know why I'm talking to you. Bye.